All right, picture this. You're at a party, somebody grabs your arm, and they're like, hey, you got to meet Sarah. Now, why? I'm going to tell you because she is the mastermind behind Wix's influencer marketing game. A lot of brands, look, we're still fumbling. We got creator spreadsheets. It's one person has it on their computer. It's not in the cloud. It's confusing. We're going to put all that to rest. Sarah's going to break down how she works out global campaigns that actually move the needle, especially in B2B, where most influencer content can go to die. So she's flipped brand perception. She's turned scrolls into strategy. She's not here for the fluff, here to build. I'm excited to have her on the show. I hope you all like this episode as well. Let's get into it with the one and only Sarah Adam. Sarah, how you doing?
I'm great. Thank you for having me.
Yeah, I'm excited, and I want to jump right in. Influencer marketing. Is there a big mistake or something that you're seeing people get wrong, or a common hiccup that people hit where you can be like, that's the thing. If brands just unlock that, they'd be 90% there.
For sure. I do. Unfortunately. I mean, look, don't get me wrong. There are many, many, many brands doing it right. And it's such a pleasure to see. And there are many creators doing it right. It takes two to tango. But I'd say the things that, when I'm scrolling my feed, I mostly hang out on LinkedIn. There is a lot of influencer marketing going on LinkedIn. So when I'm scrolling, what stops me, like, let's say if we're looking at the bad use cases or things that I think brands get wrong, is when they possibly view creators as just another ad, like just another advertising channel. And you can just tell by, I mean, I'll actually read the whole thing because I'm interested in it from from my job's perspective, because that's what I do with creators. But I think if I wasn't, if I didn't have that point of view, I don't think I would even read it because it's so salesy and it's so obvious that this is paid. So I think that's one of the big mistakes that brands do. And there could be a few reasons for it. It could be because brands want to control the entire process, which is really beating the purpose of the exercise. Because when you work with influencers, you want them to bring their unique voice, their unique style, their authenticity. So you don't want to tell them. You shouldn't be telling them exactly what to do or giving them a script. So I think that's something that, at least in my experience, it's something that I learned from campaign to campaign, and to learn how important it is to give the creators that you're working with the creative freedom, because after all, there's a reason why they have such crazy following or terrific engagement. There's a reason why they are thought leaders in the niche that you're targeting. So I think as long as the brand is fully aligned and clear and transparent about what it is that they need from the partnership, how are they measuring success, what's the critical things that are important to them, they should really let the creator do the rest, and trust that person to do it right.
So going into that in particular, when we look at creator trust, letting creators create, right? Letting there, like you said, there's a reason we're picking them. What I've seen is some brands come in and they say, we're going to go wide. We just want to get a jillion people to produce. And then what happens is they actually have a lot of brand dilution in that. So talk to me about balancing that. Hey, we need to get X amount of partners, but two, we want to find people that really embody the brand or the message that you're going for. I guess the question I have there is, how much time per influencer, like pre-campaign, are you putting in to go and finding these people?
Yeah. So the discovery process is really very, very, very important. And it's important to take your time to do it right. And my tip is, or at least the way we do it, my team does it the way I do it, you really need to immerse yourself in the niche that you're targeting. Like, you need to live it, like swim in this niche, like a fish in water, and really touch it and understand through it, like who's leading the conversation. And it may not be someone with 1 million followers. It may be someone with 20,000 followers. So you need to really be I'm not saying participate in the conversation, but you need to be almost part of it, and to be following the people that are relevant, and to be looking at who are they engaging with and who are they commenting, which posts are they commenting on, and to really feel it. And then that's really the best way to do the research and to understand, who are the influencers in the very specific niche. And this is very true as well for B2B, and to choose the influencers wisely, because that's essentially the foundation of your campaign. So you can't take it lightly. And once you choose the ones you want to work with, and you need to remember that not everyone that's on your list is going to respond to you. Not everyone is are you going to be able to afford within your budget. So you need to, I mean, at least what I always do, like if I'm targeting, if I want 50 influencers for a specific campaign, I'm going to reach out at least to 100, because we see a 50% response rate. And then the negotiation phase takes place after that. So it's a really long process between when you start your research and you're starting your campaign. Like you have the influencers signed.
Which is something I think a lot of brands discount in terms of the amount of effort it takes pre-campaign to find people. Like when I go and talk with people, they're like, oh, we're just going to launch it. We're going to get these campaigns and we want to go next month and find us some mega influencers. And I'm like, whoa. Hey, everybody, like, let's pump the brakes. And why? And I want to get your thoughts on this. I see there's audience alignment. So let's take Wix, for instance, right? There's audience alignment for these influencers with Wix and their potential customers. Okay, that's one thing. And then two, we have content alignment. Does the content speak to Wix's brand and what you all are standing for? Now, obviously in a perfect world, you'd find somebody who has both. But how do you, I guess, evaluate, and maybe it's different creator to creator, of like, we want this person's content and we're going to buy the content and have them be on the Wix's page, versus we want to let them run with it and be more of the traditional influencer campaign. Are you doing both of those things?
Okay, so my team and we focus mostly on the second option. So we partner with influencers. We pay them not only for their content creation abilities, but also for their distribution abilities. So we want to get to their audience. We want even more than that, because today, when you're scrolling through your feed on Instagram, on TikTok, it's really interest based. Like you're not only seeing content of people you're following. So it's not just that we want to get to their followers, we want to get to relevant people similar to their followers. We want the message to be delivered in an authentic way. And it's very different strategies. If we're paying an influencer and we want the content to be on our channel, it doesn't even need to be an influencer. It could be a very good content creator that doesn't even have social following, right? It's very different use cases, and it really depends on what it is that you're trying to achieve. I mean, I personally love it when brands, kind of where they work with creators for UGC, for content that appears on their channel, on their page. And in many cases it also makes a lot of sense resource wise, production wise, to outsource that. So yeah, it's two different use cases, and it very much depends on what the goal of the campaign is or the effort.
Can an influencer be too big? And what I mean by that they actually end up overshining the brand when you do this and kind of suck, like the vampire effect is the studied term. Is that something that you ever consider where you're like, okay, they're going to be too well known or known for something maybe different?
Yeah, I think definitely. I personally prefer to work with influencers that are, although following at the end of the day is not really important. What's important is the engagement that they get and the impressions that they get, like how their content actually performs. But just, it does make sense to talk about it also in terms of following, because it's easy to compare between influencers. But I'd say our kind of soft spot would be anywhere between like 10K followers to 300K, 500K. Like, and this is for our B2B, like we prefer not to work with influencers that are absolutely huge. And I'll tell you why, and this may be just relevant, like it may just be something that we've encountered, like maybe for other brands it's different. But I'll give you an example. So our B2B solution is called Wix Studio. And Wix Studio is for professional web designers, web developers, for agencies, freelancers that build websites for their customers. So let's say I have a campaign around a new design feature, and I'm going to need a web designer, like an influencer that's a web designer, and I want them to not just show how they're using the product. They need to do it at a really high level, and they need to invest time in learning the product. Let's assume that they're not an existing user. There's a lot of time that they need to invest, a lot of effort. And we found that influencers that are mega, that are big, they don't necessarily want to get so kind of dirty into the product, right? So there may not even be the right fit. So it's not just about the numbers. Plus, there are many ways today, like, for example, a brand can work with what's called a nano influencer. Okay, so it could be, let's say, an influencer on TikTok that has as little as 3,000 followers. Okay, and let's say their videos reach 500 views on average, right? That's nothing. Okay, that's not someone you want to work with. However, you could, if they're very good at the content and they have beautiful videos, you could put paid behind it and you could reach, seven-figure views. So there are many ways to look at it. So it very much depends, obviously, on the goals of the campaign, on the budgets.
It's interesting though. I think that that's a good note, right? Is like whatever your brand is, listener, is finding the sweet spot for you to go, and that's only I think a lot through trial and error, right? To go, okay, we've kind of found this archetype, this person who has 30,000 followers that we know is going to create a banging piece of content. They're going to learn the product, which I think is a pivotal thing you said there. It's not like we're Salesforce and we can just hire Matthew McConaughey to come do some commercials and keep it moving, right? We got to show, hey, how does this work? And with Wix in particular, this leads me to my next question, right? Is you've spoken about it on other interviews, but changing the perception of Wix, and particularly with Wix Studio, towards the dev community, towards the agency community, from like how I'll just candidly tell you how I saw Wix, right? For a long time, I thought it was like, oh yeah, if you need to like open a coffee shop, you could go sign up and you could have a little thing, or, like it would, and this is 10 years ago, my perception of it. So talk to me about, I guess, one, what Wix Studio is too, but then bigger, matching those internal capabilities of what you have versus external perception and changing the external perception.
Yeah, so I'll take you back. When was it? Like August 23. Yeah, when we launched Wix Studio. So I remember that we were having discussions about the launch and how we should do it, and the different teams suggesting how they can contribute and what they should be doing, and looking at the mix and etc. And working with influencers was something that we didn't need to convince anyone. It was very clear that because of we were very well aware of the perception gap, because Wix, like you said, is known for our, what we call internally, our DIY solution, which is for not even, I mean, yes, of course, business owners, small to medium businesses, people that want to build their own site, maybe because they want the control, maybe because they can't afford to pay an agency or a freelancer, maybe because they just need to get something and start running with it, or maybe it's because it's a website for their hobby. Like they definitely don't want to invest any money in it. So Wix is like the Wix brand is strongly associated with those values. And when we were planning the launch, so like I said, we were aware that there is a perception gap. So when we even started to talk to web developers, I mean, I felt every call I'd get on with a potential influencer that we could work with. First of all, it was a challenge to even get their response over email and to schedule that call. And then when we'd get on that call, I felt like the call started with this big like brick wall between me and them. And I had to slowly, like brick by brick, explain and be very transparent about what it is that we're doing and why we're doing it, and the challenge, being very open that we are aware of the challenge, like we're aware of how Wix is perceived. And it's interesting also because these influencers, in a way, were taking a chance. Many of them said, oh wait, I need to, and this is a good sign, I like it when influencers do that, when they say, wait, I need to play around with the product first. There's no way I'm going to talk about a product that I would never really use or that doesn't work. I'm not going to do that to my followers. So that's a great sign. And we also did a lot of demos we would introduce these influencers to our product managers, to our head of product, and to start creating real relationships from the ground up. It was a lot of work and it felt like baby steps, or like the example I gave of the brick wall. Like it was just like one by one by one. Also important in the influencer discovery process, and this is a good example of why, is that you do want, I think it makes sense to work with influencers that are connected to each other, right? Because influencers, I mean, you see it when you start to immerse yourself in the niche, you'll start to see the influencers, commenting on each other's posts. And the more you follow them, the more you see who's connected to who. So when we're doing this process and we're getting on the calls and, it's really putting the relationship first and doing whatever it takes to gain their trust. So influencers, when they're part of such communities, like they talk to each other. So you want to make sure that you have to keep it in mind all the time. And I always say to my team, like whenever you send an email or a DM, like be careful with your words because it can be screenshotted and shared with the entire community. And then, that could ruin your reputation or build it if it's a good thing. So I'm always, you have to be very cautious. Like I've always treated influencers with, sometimes I think like when I get on a Zoom with them, there should be like a red carpet because that's like how I feel towards it. And it's something that you need to build and you need patience, right? And it actually, now I have a thought, it connects to your very first question about mistakes that brands make. And I think when brands like will send, just bulk email reach outs to influencers with no real thought, or I mean, now there are AI agents that do that, which I have a big issue with. So to even, the influencer gets a message and it says, AI agent at the bottom or whatever, like that's even worse to me. But yeah, that just always thinking about the relationship and about the long term investment, that it's not just for this campaign. I mean, even if the agreement is just for one campaign or for 2 reels or 3 TikTok videos, like just keep in mind that your real goal is for it to keep going, for this to be a successful partnership, and then it's going to lead to another one, etc.
Yeah, which you touched on something there, which is connection matters. And at all parts of this, from the internal marketing side, having that human connection with our influencers, and for our influencers to have that connection with their audience. And I think the minute it gets super automated AI, we're all checking out. We're all like, it might work. It might be like a hack. It's like, I've seen a lot of these hacks throughout my career, and I get it. AI's here. It's gonna come, it's here, it's part of the workflows and all these things. But the minute it starts trying to AI talking to AI, like what are we both gonna have our AIs talking to each other? Like that to me is so it's like such a nonsensical way to foster communication, right? Now, I do want to so we've talked a lot about, you going out, defining the influencers, rolling out the red carpet, fostering connection with them. What about the people who reach out to you? Do you have people pitching you ideas? How does that workflow? Yeah, how does that work? Like, what's something, I guess, that for people who do reach out to you, I guess I'm sure you get a ton of like pitches. Yeah, how does that work? Walk me through the people pitching you and what comes from that.
Yeah, I get pitched to, for sure. Not every day, but I'd say a few times a week for sure. And I think the challenge is that, many times these are amazing creators and they'll, sometimes they'll also include like an idea for a campaign and you could read it and say, wow, I love that idea. It's so cool. But many times it's very challenging because we have, and it may just be the way we work. I don't know if this is different with other brands, but we have very specific focuses, and yes, they change every few months. But, just for example, if I get a pitch from a creator that's like, say, mostly on TikTok, and let's say that particular queue, we have a strong push on YouTube, right? So it's always a bit difficult because like I can't really just answer any random pitch and say, well, listen, our strategy is different. This is our strategy, 1, 2, 3. Like I can't do that. So it is a challenge because I do want to respond. I don't want to, it's not very nice. They've put an effort to reach out, and they are very talented. So yeah, sometimes hit the jackpot. It's a great pitch, it's a great influencer, it aligns with the strategy. I mean, perfect. I love when that happens, obviously. But I don't, my team and I, we don't wait for to be pitched to. The majority of our partnerships are partnerships that we initiated. So we did the research because it aligns with our goals, and we reached out and closed the deal. Yeah, if that makes sense.
No, no, it totally does. I was just, yeah, it's interesting to see that balance. I'm sure it's like you find some gems in there, but largely it's, the segment you want to go after. And do you use any specific tools to help you with identification of influencers?
We do. We use, there's a tool called Favicon that we've been using now for almost a year. And the reason why we started to use Favicon is because back in the day, we wanted to start to work with influencers on LinkedIn, and LinkedIn is just an impossible platform for anything creator marketing. Like searching is just impossible. So that was why we started working with Favicon, although we do use it for other platforms. It touches on pretty much all platforms, and it's great. I do use LLMs as well. I play around with that too for search, although it's not particularly accurate, but I have found some cool needles in the haystack that way. But really the best way to do it is organically, like I said at the beginning, when you just kind of become part of the niche and you're following people, and then the algo's recommending other people. And that's like, when we started and we scaled and we were doing like crazy numbers, we still didn't have a tool. So I don't think, if there's a marketing team that like, okay, let's start doing influencers, wait, we need a tool. No, you don't need a tool. Like, you can start with nothing and see what your needs are, see which platforms you're focusing on, because there are many tools out there that only support LinkedIn or only support YouTube or only TikTok. So you need to kind of know what your needs are before.
1,000,000%. I would double down on that. I mean, we do a lot of work on the like consumer brand side, and it's funny. We have a high-ranking piece of content. It's how to find UGC creators. So if you put it in YouTube, we'll be number one, or Google will be number one. And our suggestion in that is like, we've used a million tools, but a Google spreadsheet is still our favorite. Like, is still the best way we've found to like pick the people, make our notes. Like you said, some people are on one platform, some people are on another. So it's finding what works for you, right?
Yeah, so we used Google Sheets like for quite some time. And then when we started to not only scale, but grow the team, and there were several people working like across platforms. And that is when it got tricky, because everyone had their own Google Sheet. And then, wow, it was like, it's a big mess. But then what it's like when you're just too busy to stop and improve. You just gotta, it's like you're chasing your tail all the time. But then someone on the team was like, enough, like, let's open a Monday board, because the Wix marketing department used Monday in any case. It was like easy for us to start. And the only thing that we found that we get from the Monday board that we can't get on Google Sheets was that, so each deal with an influencer, the deliverables are different. Sometimes it's 5 reels, sometimes it's 2 YouTube videos, sometimes it's multiple, it's a cross platform. So that was what we found difficult to track, like the kind of sub items. So that shift really helped us just kind of be more organized. And then if someone on the team goes on holiday, it's very easy to pick up where they left. So that's been very helpful for us.
I love it. I know it's almost turning your Monday board, or we use Notion, into like a mini CRM for these, or have these tools to be like, okay, where are we at? Do we have the do we have the publicity rights deal signed and all of that? So it's very, very interesting. Now, before we close this up, give people a rundown. What is Wix Studio? For those, our listeners are largely marketers and founders. So give them the rundown. What's Wix Studio? Love to hear about it.
So Wix Studio is it's a web creation platform for people that we call them web creators. So it could be professional web designers, could be web developers, could be agency owners, freelancers, maybe not necessarily people that are professional web designers or web developers, because you could do a lot without code and you could do a lot without the design education. But it is for people that are using the tool to build websites at scale. So people that are building a very large number of websites for their customers on a daily, weekly basis, as well as for enterprises that have multiple landing pages, multiple websites that they need to manage from one place. And it includes both like the, let's call it website builder, so the editor for the actual website, and of course there are amazing templates and many very cool design capabilities, and you can also use code for more complex features that you want to use. But it also has what we call like the business solutions that it offers, as well as tools to pretty much manage your agency or freelancer business. So it's very different to the classic Wix.
Very, very cool. So everybody go check that out. Sarah, I will put links to your LinkedIn, which I see you're very active on. You're always giving a ton of information. I love it. So we'll put Sarah's LinkedIn in the show notes. Thanks so much for coming on today. I appreciate it.
Thank you so much.
Amazing. Everybody, I'm Jordan Shelton. This is Mind Your Marketing, and I'll catch you next time.